Today's session, we will first go through the Mishnah Berurah quickly in our simon, every single Mishnah Berurah. Then we will do some of the notes from the Dershu, which are relevant. And we'll see what we do if we have more time to try to get a better understanding, a deeper idea of what's happening over here. What's happening over here in Siman Reish Adi Beis, this is familiar information to us. This is already the third session that we've had on this. Third, right? Yeah, third session that we've had on this. The intro, and then maybe the fourth. Shulchan Aruch says on mincha, the Ramah we mincha and Shabbos we add ashrein of alatzion v'anis filosi umotzion sefer Torah. You remove the Torah from the Aron v'koydin shleish anashim, and you read three people asara psukim meparsha ba. You have three people who get an aliyah, and you read minimally 10 psukim. Vafilu chal. Yom Tov lihios b'Shabbos koydin b'parsha above aloy b'shel Yom Tov. And even if Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos, you read about the upcoming parsha and not Yom Tov. Ormim sidkascha, the Shulchan Aruch says in Siv Beis, we say sidkascha. It's a section. Yim chal boy b'yom shilu hayachol, and if it fell out on a day, that if it was a weekday, lo hayoimrim bo b'mincha nefilas b'am, we wouldn't be saying tachnin at mincha. In that case, einoimrim sidkascha. Then you would not say sidkascha. For example, if it's Rosh Chodesh, or if Rosh Chodesh will fall out on Sunday, then you would not say it. Why? Because the regular mincha during the week, the mincha before Rosh Chodesh, you would not say tachnim, or if it was Rosh Chodesh itself. The custom is not to establish midrash, a time for learning between mincha and marav. So obviously, what are you supposed to do then? But you say Pirkei Avos b'kayitz in the summer. Why specifically in the summer? Why specifically Pirkei Avos? A lot of explanations. For Shir Amalos b'chorv, when we say Shir Amalos in the winter, we call Makom Lefi Minhago. Every place goes according to their custom. Mishnah Berurah and Aleph says we say Ashrin of Alatzion umafsikin b'kadosh koidim v'anis filasi, and we interrupt with Kaddish before v'anis filasi. So the idea over here is that we say Ashrein of Alatzion, and we do Kaddish, and then we do Vanis Filasi. So, which is what we say when we take the Sefer Torah out. So why don't we say that before? Very simple, because Vanis Filasi is connected to removing the Sefer Torah, and therefore, that's why we say it then and there. We'll go into more of the significance of this Kaddish. Kaddish basically is a bridge when it separates, when it concludes something. So that's when you say the Kaddish. It's a half Kaddish. We say Uvalatzin at Mincha instead of saying Kedusha during the week. Usually in Shachris we say Kadosh, Kadosh, Baruch Hu, etc. And in Shabbos we have a lot of length in Shachris and Mosaf. So therefore, at Mincha we leave it until Mincha. Shachris is long enough. We provided additional reasons for that yesterday as well. It's called Bosim Mem. Banitz Filosi, we say, who up in Medrash, it's based in a Medrash, Amar David and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, David said in front of Hashem, Rabbeinu Shalom, Master of the world, Einu Mazoi ki oivdi gelum sheshoisim mishtachrim apoichazim. This nation, the Jewish nation, is not like the other nations that they drink, they get intoxicated, and then they are a little wild and disrespectful. V'anu lokein, we are not like this. Afal pi, she'achalnu v'shasinu v'anis Filosi, even though that we ate and we drank, we still stay on the right path and focused, and we praise Hashem and we sing, etc. But at mincha and Yom Tov, then you would not say it. The ain koyrin b'Torah, because we do not read from the Torah. Shehu eis ratzon, which is an auspicious time al yidei zeh, through this. So on Yom Tov you would not say v'anis filosof. Miu b'Shabbos. However, on Shabbos the custom is to say it even in a place where there's no Sefer Torah, and similarly as an individual.
It seems from here that really you should eat first before you daven mincha.
For sure you should. Who said that you should be davening mincha before? And we learned that easier. For sure you're supposed to.
That have the early Shabbos, and they have like that 12:15 mincha going.
That's right.
People go to their meal.
That is not preferable. We learned about that in the past as well. Certainly not preferable. It should be pointed out that the Mishnah Berurah doesn't discuss, let's say Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos, would you say Vanis Filasi? The answer is for sure you would. It's the same logic that applies that we just said, and you definitely would. The question becomes, let's say Yom Kippur falls out on Shabbos. Would you say V'anis Filosi then because you're not eating? The whole
Hmm.
idea behind saying V'anis Filosi is for the eating. What about Yom Kippur? We'll come back to that. Umoitziin, and you take out the Sefer Torah. Who mitakanas Ezra kidi Isa b'Gemara? This is enactment from Ezra, like the Gemara in Baba Kama says. Pei the Sharat Zion quotes over here, Megillah Chaf Aleph, that this is an enactment from Ezra, and the reason is for the Yoshvi Karanas, the people who, during this couple explanations, Yoshvi Karanas, either it means that they were just sitting on the side, schmoozing, conversing, wasting time, and therefore we try to get them some Torah. So that's why we read at Mincha and Shabbos. Another explanation is usually during the week they're very, very busy and they can't hear the laning during the week. So therefore we want them to hear more Torah on Shabbos. And that's why we established this at Mincha on Shabbos, because they're not working. And there's a concern that if people aren't going to work, what are they going to do with the extra time? They're just going to waste it by conversing, whatever it is that they do. So therefore, they want into your Torah. Some tweak this explanation and say that this is only a means to an end. This is the bait that gets them into the shul, into the base medrash, that there's going to be a laning. And then from that, they'll either stay for the drasha or they'll learn themselves. They'll sit and learn, as we discussed in Simon Reish Adi Aleph, where the drasha is after Shabbos, koivin medrash, after the Sudan Shabbos, when you eat that meal, koivin medrash, it's a time to learn. Different explanations about that, though. Mishnah Berura and Dalid, Shloisha Nashim you call up. B'mincha ein oimrim Kaddish ala bima l'olam. On mincha, you do not say Kaddish on the bima, aka the place where you read the Torah from, where you lane from. You never say it. You never say Kaddish on the bima. Hainu bein b'Shabbos, bein b'Tainis. Meaning whether it's Shabbos or whether it is a fast. You do not say Kaddish after laning at Mincha. That's the easy rule to remember. Rather, we only say Kaddish by the Amud, where the Chazan davens from, before you start Shemona Esrei at Mincha, and that Kaddish will also, the Kainami, it will refer to, it will go on the laning as well. It will cover the potential Kaddish for the laning. So why can't you say Kaddish when you're up there by the Bima,
Like you do on Shacharis,
like we do every other time other than Mincha? The answer is the I Yomer Miyad ala Bima. If you're going to say Kaddish immediately when you're on the Bima, Imkain. If that will be so, Lifnei Ha'amad lo Yomer Kaddish, right? So then when you're in front of the Amud, you can't say Kaddish. When you go back up there, when the Chazan goes back up there, Ki ein b'mal lahafsik bein HaKaddishim, because there's nothing to interrupt between the two Kaddishes. In other words, you can't just say a back-to-back Kaddish with nothing in between. So therefore, you can't just say it when you're on the Bima, because then how are you going to say Kaddish before Shemona Esrei? You'll say, what do you mean? We do a lot of things in between.
right?
We went to a lot of places. We said the Yahalalu, we said the Mizmor La Hashem Ha'aretz,
Ashray.
right? Asher we did it before, right? Just before laning, we did Asher. Forget about Asher.
No, it didn't. Well, oh, you're saying Shabbos Mincha.
Shabbos Mincha.
I'm
Shabbos
talking about
Mincha.
okay, yeah, yeah,
What were
yeah.
you talking about?
I'm sorry, during the week.
No, I'm not talking during the week.
Okay.
Okay. Ashrei, even during the week on a tightness, you don't say Ashrei after the laning, right? So you can't use it
Right,
during the
it's
week. That's
Yahal,
before,
right.
right? You say all of these things over here.
Kalmoles, forget about it.
Ubenucha. Now the question is, why doesn't the Mishnah Berura quote the Ubenucha? Okay, so I'll tell you why. So the Mishnah Berura says, Yahalalu pasuk echad lo havi hefsek.
That's
Yahalalu is one pasuk. One pasuk does not halachically is not halachically considered. It doesn't constitute as an interruption, and therefore that would not enable one to say a second kaddish. It's the whole mizmor.
mhm.
Ein ze meker hadin. That is not from the letter of the law. When I add the missing point of the Mishnah over here. What about a benucha? Benucha yomer. That whole paragraph over there that you say after the mizmor.
He didn't say it.
He doesn't say it. Why not? That seemingly is a legitimate hefsek.
Seems to be this is like he says the of afshim, even though we say okay, fine.
Yeah, but we say Ubenucha. Why doesn't the Mishnah Berurah say it? Answers, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Shari Ephraim. He says very simple. We just said before we have a klal. Pasuk echad lo havi hefsek. One pasuk is not an interruption. If you have a bunch of miscellaneous, random sukkim that are grouped together, it's a chalom pot. That's what Benucha is. That doesn't count then. Because it's viewed as one pasuk. Each one is one pasuk, and therefore it would not constitute as an interruption. And it's always fitting. You want to juxtapose a Kaddish, you want Shemona Esrei, you want to juxtapose the Kaddish to Shemona Esrei. That the Kaddish should always precede the Shemona Esrei. What about Shachris? Why don't we have a Kaddish there? So the answer is that's brought down, which I was machaving to yesterday. After I did more research, it's because the smichus gula tefillah is more chamar. The idea of going into the brachas of Shema and Shema and immediately into Shemona Esrei is the most stringent. That's what I said yesterday, and that's what I saw brought down explicitly. And I said yesterday before I saw it brought down just from thinking properly. Masha'in came to Shachris, unlike Shachris, Yishevseg Bamiras Ashrei ben Esayim. Unlike by Shachris, you have an interruption by saying Ashrei in between them. In other words, in Shachris over here, so what happens? Right? You have laning, you put the Sefer Torah away, and then you have Ashrei and Avalotziah and Lamanatzeach, right? Ashrei, Lamanatzeach, Avalotziah, and Fenusach Ashrei, right? That's an interruption, and therefore you're able to say Kaddish again after. That's why mincha you don't say Kaddish. Accordingly, Sefer Torah b'Shabbos b'mincha. If you don't have a Sefer Torah on Shabbos during mincha, lo yomru rak pam achas Kaddish acher ashrei uvalotzion. You should only say one time Kaddish. You just say Kaddish once after ashrei uvalotzion, and then boom, you go straight into Shemona Esrei. Okay. Which is unusual. Usually we say two mincha. We say one before we take out the Sefer Torah after Valatzion. The second one right before Shemona Esrei. If there's no Sefer Torah, you just do one. When do you say the pasuk of Vanis Filasi? You think, what do you mean? It belongs after Kaddish. Yeah, typically it belongs after Kaddish. But in this specific case, doesn't come after because you want to go straight from Kaddish into Shemona Esrei. Therefore, Vanis Filosi Yoimnu Az Koidim Kaddish. That's why in this specific case, Vanis Filosi should come before Kaddish. Kadesh Lo, yeah, Hefsek Bein Kaddish Latfil, in order that there won't be an interruption between Kaddish and Shemona Esrei. Below B'Shal Yom Tov, when Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos, we lay in Shabbos and not Yom Tov. Why? Doho Hakriyo Enenu B'Shvil Yom Tov. Because the laning has nothing to do with Yom Tov. The hab mincha b'Yom Tov ain't koren. Because at mincha, if it's just a regular Yom Tov, we don't read from the Torah. So therefore, why would it be any different just because Yom Tov falls out on Shabbos that now we should start reading about Yom Tov? No, the laning is here because of Shabbos, not Yom Tov. Therefore, you lane about the up and coming Shabbos. What's the story with Sitkascha? This is old news for us because we already learned the Bach. This is basically some of the highlights of the Bach. The Mesu Bo, Yosef, Moshe, David. Yosef, Moshe, and David all died at mincha time on Shabbos.
So Yosef and David?
So right, so that's already a little bit of an add. It's brought in other places, but yes, it's a good point. Correct. It's a good point.
I was making sure I wasn't sleeping.
Correct, yeah. I was sleeping, so it's okay. V'lachein nahagu sheloi lekvoa az medrash. That's why there's a custom not to learn as well. Ki chocham shemeis kol hamidrashos batelim. Because if you have a wise person who passes, you stop all the learning, right? The Gemara says, "Meflin Talmud Torah." You stop learning for two things. One is Hachnasas Kala, to go to a wedding, Chasuna. Two, Levayasa Meis, to do a Levaya. To Levaya in English is funeral procession, right? Funeral. To go to a funeral. They say, it says in Koheles, Ace this, Ace that, Ace live noise, Ain list or time to build, time to destroy. All of there's a time for this. but there's a couple of them where there's no lam at first. Ace this. You remember this? I think.
What?
It says ace sifod and ace rakod.
So there has no llama before.
Right. There's a time l'svod is ace sifod. There's a time to eulogize, and ace rakod and a time to dance. So if you look at get Simon Samachay and Even Ezer in the Pischei Tshuva, Pei Tov Ches Yud, not with the Samach. He quotes from someone there who says that this is an illusion that you want to drop the limud on these two things. You stop the learning for them. That's why there's no lamed. It's a cute
Llama for
explanation.
Lima?
Yeah, lamed for limud. It's a cute
Interesting.
explanation. Yeah. Anyways, the Bach has length to prove. This is the highlights, like I was saying before. Shaloi Meis Moshe b'Shabbos Rak b'Erev Shabbos. Moshe didn't die on Shabbos itself. It was on Erev Shabbos, before Shabbos. However, v'loi nignes at Shabbos mincha b'Shaisa, the Isratzim. However, he wasn't hidden or buried until mincha time on Shabbos, which is an auspicious time. K'moshe Kasa b'Zohar, as the Zohar writes. And we say Siddur Kadin at the time when he was hidden or buried. Wait a second. You're not allowed to get buried on Shabbos. The answer is if you're buried by Hashem, then it's fine. V'yesh mefarshim, and some say the oimrim that we say Sid Koscha lahatzdik kadin al rishayim shechoizim legin b'motzi Shabbos, to try to make things better for those wicked people who are returning to Gehenna after Shabbos. Boy b'mincha. This is going on the you don't say Sidkascha if you wouldn't be saying Tachnan if it was a weekday perish, meaning Bein Shiyoim HaShabbos Hu Rosh Chodesh, whether Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh itself, then you certainly wouldn't say it. Or Bein Shiyoim Rishon Shachor Hu Rosh Chodesh, or whether Sunday will be Rosh Chodesh. V'im Kain, and if that would be so, consequently, if it would be the weekday, then you would not be saying Tachnun. If it was the weekday, then you wouldn't be saying Tachnun because it's either Rosh Chodesh or Erev Rosh Chodesh, right before Rosh Chodesh. So Shekvar Chal b'mixes Yom Shachar, because it already falls on you a little bit of the following day. In other words, if today is Shabbos and it's Rosh Chodesh tomorrow, Rosh Chodesh already starts kicking in a little bit. You feel it coming. It's palpable. It's bubbling. It's in the air. And therefore, Gam Ata Inom Sitkascha. Also now you would not say Sitkascha. B'Nahagu. If you look at the language of the Ramah, the custom is not to learn in between Mincha and Ma'ariv. The Eino Isser. This is not a prohibition to learn. This is a custom to remember. Remember that it's an important time. Bad time can involve the reason, as mentioned earlier, because when a wise scholar passes, Talmud Chacham, we stop the learning to go to the Levaya funeral. It's a little confusing, this language. This is specifically talking about you don't want to learn bechavrusa. What's chavrusa?
One-on-one.
I would think one-on-one, right?
Mhm.
Aval shnayim loimdim, but two could have learned. What does two mean? It's like a train, two. What does two and two mean?
Bivatehem?
Bibateim, in their house. Sounds like a similar thing. Kemoshe Kasabi, your day is discussing your day over there, Len Yanasi Shemes. Seems like what this is saying is, you don't want to do the learning that could get dragged out and you lose track of time, maybe. There's what to look into more here. We'll have to come back to this. Next, Mishna Berura.
So then you could learn alone in shul? That would be fine?
Yeah, definitely. Now, what does this mean? You can't learn between Mincha and Ma'ariv. That doesn't mean that if you're going to daven now, Mincha at 1:30 in the afternoon, you can't learn the whole time. That would be ridiculous. Not only can you learn, but you should learn. Rather, what it means explains the Mishnah Berura. Hainu kishuhu samach l'chashecha. This means that no, when it's near the time of dark, in between mincha and ma'ariv, then you shouldn't be learning. However, that's where the custom is to give the shir, the drasha before mincha. And if the drasha continues near the time of dark, as azai lo yomru prakim o shir ma'as, then you don't say Pirkei Avos or Shir Amalis Kadesh Yuchalu Lakayim Su Deshlishis B'man in order that you could fulfill Shalashudas in the proper time. Then this is an interesting closing point. Ubeli Rabba Isa B'Shem Abu Yom Tov Shirol Rabbo Maharal Prague Kama Panim Shedarush Bein Minch Lamar. The Eli Rabba says, he quotes the Mabusha Yom Tov, he said that he saw his Rebbe, the Maharal of Prague, the Maharal of Prague, the Golem creator, come upon him that many times Shedarosh Bein Minch Lamarv, that many times, he actually gave the Joshua between Mincha and Marv. Oh, Shiloh, if you have a Golem, could he combine to a minion or not? Balkain, and therefore, Mishna talks about it in some Minun Hey, or Nun Vav over there. Balkain, and therefore, Nira, it appears. Nowadays, you should not refrain from learning Torah between Mincha and Marv. First of all, you have the Maharal who gave the Joshua between Mincha and Marv. Second of all, Ki Yadu, as it's known, Shematsui Bavanosein Arabim, that it's found due to our sins are great iniquities. Be'ezim Makomos in certain places. Sha'oiskinaz Kama Noshim Beis HaMedrash B'sicha B'Tela. Yeah, many people, they just talk and shmooze about nothing of importance. No Torah HaKadosh in the conversation at all. So he says over here, since you have such people, it is certainly better at this time to listen to words of Musar in order that you won't come to this. The Esther Rabbah talks about a person could sleep the whole day, a person could relax the whole day, could schmooze the whole day, just talk, could eat the whole day. And then the guy sits down to learn for a half hour, an hour, a couple hours. He starts yawning. He starts falling asleep. What's going on over here? You ever fall asleep when you have a $200 tomahawk piece of steak in your mouth? No. So why is that more important than Torah HaKadosh? After all, that steak's only worth $200. The Torah HaKadosh is worth trillions of dollars. How do I know? It's pasuk. The Torah is more precious than all the diamonds in the world, all the gold, all the Bitcoin, all the assets, all the real estate, more than everything. All your desires won't eat it. Won't make up to it. Point being is that you clearly see over here this idea to learn more Torah. This is a theme that if we just cross-reference it, and David's getting a little sit-down comedy day. Look at him, he's loving
No,
this.
I don't, it's funny. People don't, in general, you can't. I think, people don't, it doesn't matter. I mean, a tomahawk steak, but whatever, people don't fall asleep eating.
Exactly. That's why.
I wonder if
that's why. When you get connected to something, you're not going to fall asleep.
No, but it wouldn't be safe.
It's time to wind down. You have these young 20-year-olds. They think that it's a beach club over here. They're relaxing. They're reclining. What do you mean? You go up to those guys? I want to go up there. Did you finish Shas Bavli Yerushalmi being? Did you learn Torah Shulchan Aruch with all the commentaries? You learned the Medrash Rabbah. You learned the sugyas over there. You got a lot to do. Tanakh in depth. You know how much there is to do. Svarim HaKadoshim after. Come on. You got your feet up for. You got limited time. Our lives are very limited. We're ticking time bombs. And especially the time that we actually have to learn. Most people, at least, right? People who aren't rabbis, who aren't learning all day, etc. Time is so limited. Let's take advantage and realize this is why we're on this planet. How do I know? It's Mishna in second Parakavos. You learned a lot of Torah, don't give yourself credit. That's why you were created. Go up to a person. Why are you in this world? What is the purpose? Why are we here? We're created to learn Torah Kedosha, which gets us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Very here, very. Okay.
Let's talk. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's not two different subjects, but on Tisha B'Av, nowadays they have all these, yeah. You're not supposed to learn Torah.
Keep going.
So I'm just saying, it's sad this, otherwise people would be hanging around. So that's why they give all these shiurim with Musar and everything.
Right.
Granted, they sprinkle it in with Torah,
right,
but this might be the reason.
Okay, now let's just come back to Tisha B'Av. You don't learn Torah. First of all, we were recording JoeBan.com from 11 years ago, the shiurim that I gave on Tisha B'Av itself. There's around a dozen different things that you can learn on Tisha B'Av, including the Sefer. I mean, there's a lot. Right, okay. Right. So people aren't going to do that anyway, so they have this shiurim, right?
Right. Let's say, but they.
Right. I know.
let's say the Hamonam,
Right,
just
I know,
wouldn't, so
I
that's
know.
why maybe this is part of it, that,
Right, right. So, the crowds they need, nowadays it's popular. You can't just give a shear. You can't just give a shear. You have to have entertainment in the shear. It's got to be, everyone needs to be entertained nowadays,
mm,
right? They have, it used to be, forgot where it was, maybe Kelm, I don't want to misquote it, but when they would give shiurim there, they would never change their tone of voice.
mm.
aka the opposite of what I do, right? What most people do. I don't do it so much. There's other people who do way more. They're putting on a show, they're trying to entertain more, but they wouldn't change your voice. Why? Torah is perfect the way it is.
Hmm.
You don't need to now turn it into this whole entertainment, right? You want to go to get entertained, go to kosher comedy or something. I don't even know what
I
that is.
wonder.
People
Wait, I
talk
wonder what
about it. I
the
never went once. But, there's enough entertainment out there. The Torah isn't a show. When you're learning Torah, when someone's teaching Torah, when someone's listening to Torah being taught, it doesn't need to be diluted. It's perfect the way it is, and you don't need to change the tone of voice, right? So nowadays, everyone needs an entertainment. Now, a lot of problems with these things on Tisha B'Av, okay, is very simple. A lot of times they're quoting a lot of statements of Chazal that's just Musar that doesn't have to do with Tisha B'Av, and a lot of it is really borderline questionable if it should be, going on Tisha B'Av, this type of Torah, if it should be taught, especially now they have all these organizations and they record it before Tisha B'Av, they play it on Tisha B'Av, all of these things. I think that's questionable, but this Mishnah Berura, you know what it reminds me of? In the halachas of Chol HaMoed, there's a halacha of you're not allowed to write. You're not allowed to write. We didn't learn Hilchos Chol Moed. I remember years ago, Rabbi Forst told me, he said, when you learn Hilchos Chol Moed properly, you see there's really a lot of things you can't do. It's and what a lot of people aren't careful with, right? But one thing about Chol Moed over there is that talks about you're not allowed to write. It's a whole discussion about texting and
Using a computer.
right, yeah, all these things, So, okay, we could discuss when we get there. Is it better?
Right.
Is it better to do what you could do? You push one button, you talk, and then the phone types it for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is that going to be better, right? But the Mishnah Brew over there is very fiery, and he has a few sentences about this where he says, if you are gonna, if it's for Torah,
No,
then he gives you a full.
not the,
He pretty much says, you could do it.
learn to whatever.
There's right a chiddush, but I'm going to tell you a chiddush about that chiddush. Okay. Let's say you want to type something, you want to write something or type something on Chol Moed Torah. It's not a chiddush, not a chiddush, or it's something that you'll probably remember anyways, and you don't need to write it or type it then. Could you type it or write it then? So they say that every single day in our lives we have limited time, right? Every single day, by definition, is a maximum of 24 hours. If you add up the amount of time that we spend eating, sleeping, and in the restroom, you're down to whatever the amount of hours it is. Let's say, I don't know, 16 hours or something, right? Okay, whatever it is. So with those 16 hours, what is a person going to do with the time? There's limited time. If a person isn't going to write down the ideas today that he has, the Torah ideas that he has, or just the Torah notes that he wants to do, right? Like let's say me, but I'll make it personal, right? Every single day after this Chabura, I try to type up what we did, the main points, and then eventually when we're done with the topic, as you know, present the information, and it's very organized, very clear, and organized to. So then years down the line, if we ever need to come back to it, we'll come back to it, and that's why I email it to you also, so you have it for yourselves also. So if a person now isn't going to start typing and writing his usual notes, like the notes that I type in for this word, they're not necessarily Chedusha most of the time. I'm basically taking the information, putting it in a different language in English, and organizing it in a way that I think makes sense from a perspective of organizing it. Topics, and it's very organized. That's the key. Right? But if I'm not going to do that today, so now tomorrow, it's like coming to work late, so to say, right? Because now I need to catch that up for tomorrow, which then tomorrow it will take away from the new material that I could learn and the new notes that I could write also.
You have to try and remember it harder.
So that's one of the other heterim, why they say it's permissible to write it, because it's going to slow a person down. The point is, if you look at the language of the Mishnah Berurah over there in Hilchos Chol Moed, he's pretty pro writing for Torah on Chol Moed, even though in general not. So that's what this Mishnah Berurah reminds me of also. There's another place where the Mishnah Berurah is very pro Torah as well. I think some have a custom not to really learn non-Tisha B'Av related subjects after Chatzos Tisha B'Av. I think I'm making that up.
Erev Tisha B'Av.
Erev Tisha B'Av, after midday.
He's making over there.
Pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, the Mishnah Berurah over there is lenient. Is lenient, I think so. So
definitely lenient on a Sunday.
Yes.
Tisha B'Av falls on a Sunday and Erev Shabbos, sure.
Yes.
Even on a regular, he might be also, because there's always people be strolling, I think he says over there.
Yeah. So look, I thought we were gonna get to some other topics today, which is fine that we didn't get to it today. We will get to it on the next sessions. But basically today we did the entire Mishnah Berurah. I want to just share we have 2 minutes. Someone recently brought to my attention there's something called a leading question. A leading question means, you see this a lot of times, not that I watch these things ever, but by interviews. You'll see it in all fields. You'll see it. People asking questions. For example, someone asks a question about to the president about Iran or something, right? So they'll ask it with an agenda. It's a leading question. They're trying to prove a point when they're asking the question.
Right.
Leading question. They're fishing for a certain answer. Someone asked a rabbi a question, a halachic question, and he's phrasing the question in a way to make it permissible. It's a leading question. That's what it's called. So someone asked me, if a person's learning 10 hours of Torah a day, say a guy in yeshiva, 17-year-old, he's in high school, and he's only learning so that his friends will honor him and give him respect. Right. Gemara Pesachim Daf Nun, right? So there's a Taisvus in Brachos on Yud Aleph. It says if you're learning Shalosh Shema, it's better that like you weren't created, something like that. That's Lakanta, Taisvus answers. Right? If it's to use as a weapon of mass destruction to instigate others, which is a major issue. You'd be surprised there are people that do such a thing. They study Torah and learn it to use it as a weapon to try to get other people away from Torah. There are people that do such a thing. Okay. Not just missionaries. That's something else. So Taisvus clearly answers, no. The Gemara that says Shlo Lishma Ba'al Lishma, you learn for the wrong reasons, and eventually you'll learn for the right reasons, for the sake of heaven, or what's called altruistically. So for altruistic motives. So that's talking about when you're learning for respect and honor. The question is, it seems like that's not preferable. Right? That's b'diavad. The question is it better to learn Torah 3 hours a day, but not to get any respect or honor? Person's learning in private. He's doing it because he knows it's the right thing to do, and he's going to get closer to Hashem, and he's going to be able to fulfill mitzvahs better. Is it better to learn 3 hours for the right reasons, or 10 hours, but for the wrong reasons, for honor and respect? So he wanted to claim that it is only b'diavad, Beishar Nefesh Chaim, and Shar Daled, and preferably you should it's preferable to learn 3 hours for the right reasons. That's what I wanted to say. He asked me if I knew of any sources that show that it's better to learn 10 hours, but for the wrong reasons. Preferably, if you had the option, so to say. More theoretical, but
Right.
so think about that. What to think about. Anyways, everyone should have a wonderful day.
All right.
All right.
Good question. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.